All right. What's up, nerds? It's Havoc. Finally, we've got a video for you guys today about the Canadian Shock Battlegroup. This is a highly requested. Honestly, I'll be straight with you guys. Because I play random all the time, I don't get a lot of UKF games because my elo on UKF is high, and it just doesn't match me with many players. But thankfully, we have this guy, Reakly, who is, what is he? Number 2 position, I believe, on DAK at the moment. And we've got a solid game today. Highlighting, I think, all the elements, the essentials of the Canadian Battlegroup. I'll break down the strategic decisions. I'll break down the micro decisions, the macro, all of it. It's all here. So with that, we're going to jump into it. So, starting with my standard opener against DAK, I'm virtually always going for double sapper into Dingo. Dingo provides the necessary pressure in the early game against DAK light vehicles like the Kradschützen and the 250. And in the early game, playing against Bersaglieri, which frankly I know that Reakly is going because it's the only battle group he plays at the moment. And you can see I'm already running into him on this +10. I needed to exert the early pressure and do some damage to his units on the field so that when my line units finally arrive, we're fighting some winning engagements. So, forcing him initially as much as I can off the +10 fuel, trying to deal a bunch of damage, trying to bleed him a few models in preparation for an attack onto this area. While I'm capturing the +16 with the engineer, I'm going to pull this back to a quick line of repairs. And I'm going to slowly creep my way up on the right-hand side with my Royal Engineer. I've spotted out his Kradschützen. I'm just going to swing behind this building here to break line of sight and then approach the Kradschützen on an angle. So I've talked about this principle before, but a lot of you are new here, so I want to highlight this. When you're approaching specifically the Kradschützen or any vehicle with a casemate turret, that actually includes the Dingo, the best way to approach it with infantry is on the diagonal. So not walking straight at the vehicle. The reason for this is because there is a small reset time that takes place each time the vehicle needs to pivot in order to fire the turret at you. So what that looks like is like if I'm doing it here. My sapper here, rather than running straight at the Kradschützen, I'm gonna run on a 45-degree angle across, and what that's gonna cause the Kradschützen to do, and Reakly actually notices this because he's a smart player, he's played against me many times, he's seen me do this maneuver. But if your opponent does nothing, what will happen is the Kradschützen will gradually pivot the chassis of the vehicle, causing the burst on the machine gun to reset. What this means, in simple terms, is that they're going to do less damage to you while you are approaching them. Because if you walk straight in, he's going to get a full burst off, probably drop like a model or two. And the nice thing about going on a 45-degree angle is sometimes when the vehicle chassis is rotating, it will actually select a different squad member to shoot at instead of the same one, which means that you're not going to lose DPS, you're just going to lose health as you're approaching the vehicle. This can be, and you guys will see in this game, like it can be the difference between winning in an early engagement against a ultralight vehicle and losing. So this is my recommendation for you when you're running up against these light vehicles. You see I'm trying to run diagonal to him, but he's already left, he's already gone. Bersaglieri here to take his place. I'm just gonna hold line of sight here and stay out of visibility while I push into the left-hand side. And I'm gonna be thinking about getting a flamethrower later so I can get back control of these buildings without too much effort. You can see here I'm looking to continue pressuring the Bersaglieri. Trying to, again, hiding from these Bersaglieri. I don't have the firepower to fight him right now, and I don't want to drop additional models. So I'm just hopping into the building. I'm going to pop out the other side. In order for me to get a flamer, I got to make my way into my own territory. So I'm going to hop out of this building into this threshold here. begin the flamer production and then make my way back eventually. You can see Reakly's here, gone for the 2 Bersaglieri start into Panzer Grenadier. I think he likes that for the snare capabilities, and also the Panzer Grenadier is just a better scaling combat unit than the Bersaglieri. I gotta shout out, I think this is Reakly's own idea, this specific build. It provides exceptional tempo in the early game. The combat power is enough to get you to your early light vehicles, which Reakly really likes to be super, super aggressive with the early light vehicles. And so it works very well for him. So we forced him out of the building. He's seen the flamethrower coming. He's just going to make his way out and try not to bleed too much manpower on this disengagement. Meanwhile, we're capturing up the left-hand side, which we were able to apply some extra pressure and force away. As soon as I locate his Panzer Grenadier, I'm just going to do myself a favor and buy a little bit of time as I'm advancing up this right side here. And then as soon as I see the second Bersaglieri here, I'm going to retreat. So I actually missed out on this in the early game, but I want to call out in 1v1 specific. Here, let's break down the Canadian Shock Battlegroup really quick. So starting out, generally speaking, against DAK especially, I'm going for attacking spirit and early Canadians. Canadians are probably like one of the stronger units to complement any UKF composition against DAK because they have access to the Piat, which is the strongest form of handheld, mobile handheld AT that UK Forces has access to. It's better than Guards, it's better than Boys AT rifles, and it comes on a shock squad that scales really, really well with veterancy over the course of the game. And because I'm not using the mortar, I'm not going for offensive resupply, and also you're just going to have more universal use of the attacking spirit passive over the course of the game, especially in a 1v1, because there's so many capture points on a map that are constantly changing hands. So generally I say attacking spirit is probably the better choice in a 1v1 situation. And then in 2v2s and other team games, I usually lean more towards offensive resupply because things like free rifle grenades, free Reakly artillery, free mortar from the Canadian what is it called? The 2-inch mortar, I think it is. All of that can be very, very useful in the team game context. And you're just getting it less often because there's less points that are consistently changing hands. The battle lines are much more drawn in 4v4. And then we'll break down what I pick out a little bit later on. But I'm leaning into going Canadians because I need another supplementary unit for my early game infantry. And I also know that it's going to provide me some form of handheld AT for the eventual vehicle that we're going to see from Reakly. So he actually picks out my sapper here. I wasn't really paying attention because I was kind of fortifying and setting up on this side. Reakly does a really good job of chasing me down with the bike and the PG here. Fine arms coming in strong. And losing the sapper is a big loss for me in the early game. Taking advantage of the attacking spirit here, I'm continuing to apply pressure with the sapper where I can. Section is very content to capture this side of the map while I apply pressure on this side. Want to talk quickly about effective range and usefulness of the Canadian shock troops. So these guys are very similar to Aussies, where their DPS increases the closer they get to target, unlike sections. Sections are best at long range. So what you should be doing in any situation that you're leading an engagement with an ultralight vehicle, drive the vehicle in first. Of course, I want to be wary of like the potential for snares, so I don't want to get too close. But if you're not worried about snares yet, like if this is like pre 4 minutes, then you're very safe to run into your opponent and just get up in their face with a light vehicle. But you want to draw their fire to the light vehicle, let your long range squad engage at max range where it's most useful, and close with the Canadian squad behind the light vehicle while the light vehicle is absorbing the pressure from the infantry units. So here you can see I'm getting a little bit closer to the Bersaglieri because they don't have a snare. And then now we're going to continue to close the gap. I'm actually pushing all the way in here so I can get into the yellow cover with these units. Applying some pressure onto the bike with my dingo. And now that he's closed in with his second squad, I've found an opportunity to throw a quick bundle grenade and force him away from this engagement. I'm going to pull my Canadians back to base. And thankfully, I've got the healing, distribute medical supplies passive up on my dingo light scout car, which I'm going to be able to use to top up this section. Meanwhile, I've captured the +10 on the other side, so we're applying great map and fuel pressure. You can see we're up at +23 in terms of fuel gained at the moment. We are a little behind. This is to be expected because of the early game strength of the Bersaglieri and the map presence. But as long as you don't lose your cool and you keep your units alive, then most of the time you can kind of scrape your way through. The other nice thing about the attacking spirit passive is that it delays your need for a medical, what is this called? Field infirmary from your base. There we go. Dingo here. Infantry section and support. Bike is also here. This squad getting very low. We're going to force away. Thankfully, we pulled our Canadians back to the base. I'm going to apply the dingo pressure onto the Kradschützen where it's going to deal the most damage. Canadians are closing the gap here. Again, making great use of the attacking spirit passive here. I'm going to finish the capture and then move into light cover here. And now we've got our Humber in production just in time to match his flak Veerling. I actually think this was a bit of a mistake on Reakly's part. He went for the medical truck first and lost the tempo potential on his flak Veerling. If you can avoid it, like just play safe engagements, use the fuel advantage to catapult yourself into the light vehicle, and you'll be much better off. I'm actually making a mistake here, not standing in full cover. But Dingo's coming over to support. Humber is on the field. Canadians, I'm going to be saving up my resources for a Piat because I'm expecting his, what's it called? His flak Veerling is going to be here soon. Now that I've got my Humber out, I'm safe to get up my field infirmary, so I'm bleeding less manpower. Again, continuing to be aggressive here with the Canadian troops. Getting up in the face of my opponent. When you're on a one-on-one engagement like this, it's very safe to do this for the most part. They will win most engagements where they can close the gap like this. I'm going to continue to apply pressure here, force away this Panzer Pioneer squad. His flak Veerling's still nowhere to be seen. But we do, there we go, we do spot it there. So we're just going to back away. And I want to be very careful now because it's past the 6-minute mark. And this is when the Panzerjäger squad can be on the field. Principally, with this composition, you want to be keeping your Dingo and your Humber together. The reason why is because if your opponent fields a Panzerjäger and they decide to chase you with the 250 Colin and the flak Veerling combo, which Reakly loves to do. It's like one of his favorite game closing maneuvers. By keeping them close together, if you can break range or line of sight on the Panzerjägers, there's a possibility that they will change targets between the two vehicles. And that can mean the difference between surviving and killing the 250 and death. And we'll actually see that play out shortly. He's on the cutoff here, cutting off the +16. I'm pushing in with the section, but having second thoughts about pushing in because I can hear the flak Veerling in this area of the map. Meanwhile, I'm just kind of scouting, probing with the Dingo on the right side here. Getting my troops topped up. Got my Piat equipped for my Canadian Shock unit. And I'm going to look for an opportunity to bait one of his vehicles into the Canadian to see if I can secure a good shot and then follow up with killing blows from my light vehicles here. It's the flak Veerling. I heard it coming, which allowed me to back away in time. You pay attention to the audio cues in this game, everything becomes very recognizable. Now, important call out here, I've queued up another sapper because I've recognized that he's planted quite a few mines. You can see I keep running into them here. And my other sapper that I lost, unfortunately that was going to be my squad that used the use the sweeper, but I lost it, so I have to rebuild it. I need a sweeper, otherwise, you know, I'm at risk of running into mines with my very expensive squads or with my vehicles, and we can't have that. So very essential for me to get a sapper at this point. He was in a strong cover position here, so I just smoked him off as a way to break the engagement, allow my section to retreat, and you'll notice I'm actually going to pop distribute medical supplies to try to keep them topped up so that I can come back in and re-engage these units in a worse position. And here we go. So this is the part I was talking about, keeping the vehicles close together. You'll notice he got a second shot in, second volley in on the Humber, but thankfully he didn't follow up with the Flak Veerling. So we were able to pick off the 250 between the Humber, the Panzerjäger, and the Dingo. Unfortunately, I was so focused on microing the Humber out of there, which is higher priority, higher value, that I ended up losing the Dingo, which is unfortunate, but it's really served its purpose at this point. Canadians doing work against these two units here, but right now I'm just buying time with my attacking spirit passive in this yellow cover, allowing him to shoot at me from max range while my sapper finishes the capture. And this is something I kind of see players forget to do a lot, is like sometimes the time that you're buying for yourself by taking health damage from your opponent is affording you an advantage elsewhere. And in this case, if I had retreated this squad when he approached me with the Flak Veerling, he probably would have continued further and started chasing down my sapper, and I would have had to retreat before finishing the capture. But because, you know, I had the presence of mind to be like, you know what, I'm not in huge danger here of losing this unit. I'm just going to take it on the chin, take a little bit of health damage so I can finish the capture. Looks like he hit some wire there. See, that's the power of the Piat right there. That one shot, if I had had my Humber here at full health to follow up on that, there's a good chance I would have been able to finish the Flak Veerling. So bringing the Humber in again where it can't be contested. Gonna bring my flamethrower over to the right side of the map. Forcing away his Bersaglieri here. I'm gonna pivot on sides of the map. I know that it's harder for him to maneuver the Flak Veerling on this side of the map because it's kind of finicky. You need to drive it with rear facing first. And this is a perfect place for me to position my Canadians for ambush. I also want to call out here my choice to go for infantry training. So what I know about Reakly's infantry is that they don't scale fantastically. But they are strong enough in the early game between the Bredas and the 6-man upgrade on the Bersaglieri. They basically catapult you into your stronger vehicles, which carry the game at that point. What I want to do is tip that balance scale in my favor so that my infantry will more consistently win engagements. And then I can focus on scaling and getting... scaling my infantry and getting the vehicles that I will need to support my more favorable infantry in engagements. So that's why we're going for training here. He's caught me out with the Bersaglieri and the bike. I'm happy to give that up and not bleed too much manpower because he's basically conceded this half of the map for me. Again, attacking spirit coming in clutch here. We had some engagements over here earlier on with these troops, but by neutralizing this point, got an active heal on both these squads now. Engaging him here with the Humber first. Gonna use the flare to force him away from my fuel. Again, attacking spirit passive proc, very nice for me. He's gonna force me away though. Very cheeky use of the Panzerjäger here by Reakly. I'm looking for an opportunity here. I'm beating his Bersaglieri, but I'm gonna take a lot of punishment from his bike. Now that I've seen his Panzerjäger kind of slip down here, I'm gonna look for an opportunity to close on this bike. You can see now here I'm pathing along the tree, making sure I'm not running into it. Get the finishing kill on the bike, which was great. I was going to clean up this Bersaglieri squad, but then we hit a mine, which was very well placed. And unfortunately, my sapper squad with the sweeper was a bit too late in approaching that. So honestly, not a great trade for me, but the ideas were there, and we were doing okay regardless. Here's the Flak Veerling again. Now, I've gone for a second squad of Canadians. The reason for this, I'm leaning further into my infantry training. I'm anticipating the potential of more light vehicles from Reakly. The potential of like a Caro or something like that. And so I want to make sure that I have adequate anti-tank forces on the field to be able to combat that. And so I'm going to go for another Canadian with a second Piat launcher. And that's what I'm anticipating is going to keep me relatively safe against the light vehicles. And also, like I said, if I can get a good couple of rounds onto this flak Vierling, I can actually take it out in 2 hits. So I want to kind of keep these guys near each other, supporting each other, and I can also use the buildings to buy myself time and prevent the vehicles from bullying me too much as my infantry scales. I am recognizing that I'm going to need something else as well in order to fight the potential vehicle onslaught. Because he's killed my Humber at this point, I'm going to be leaning towards the Stuart. The Stuart... I know a lot of people aren't really a big fan of the Stuart right now. It is very mediocre, but the best purpose that I'm seeing for the Stuart is deterrent of light vehicles. It has access to a crew shock ability at Vet 1. And it's just super useful for that, as well as spotting. And it also allows us to close on and kill vehicles that we managed to get a Piat shot on. It'll help me finish off this flak Vierling, so... I'm getting aggressive with the Canadians here. I saw him reversing down this road. He's actually attack grounding through the wall. I'm going to do the same and respond back with one. Land a good hit there on the flak Vierling. I'm closing here on the building of the machine gun, but I was going to throw a grenade, but I actually don't have the munitions for the gammon bomb here. So I'm kind of just camping it out in the meantime. Keeping my section in green cover here. Sappers capturing the +16 on the right-hand side. Canadians rotating over. Just pulled this one back to base because it's pretty low health. And I've got my Stuart here in production. So, section's going to retreat there. Infantry training coming in really clutch for me here. The makes harder to hit. I want to call this out. Infantry training makes your squads harder to hit. That's really integral, especially when scaling with veterancy. In terms of their survivability against infantry. And you can see Reakly here. I'm pretty convinced that without the training that he would have been able to finish this off. But thanks to the training, we were able to slip away. I pressured off his Panzerjägers with my sapper squad. I've got the Canadians arranged here on the retreat path. I'm going to try and land a cheeky light gammon bomb here on the Bersaglieri. But we missed just a little bit. And then we're eating a little bit of our own fire, which isn't too bad. Spotting the machine gun on the right-hand side of the map. I'm going to go for his cutoff instead, where I know his machine gun isn't. This Canadian squad getting a bit low. I'm probably going to... Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to retreat those soon. Getting a quick mine down here. Trying to force away this Pioneer squad here. And the Stuart's now on the field. We land a shot here with the Piat. Get snared by the PGs, and then unfortunately the Stuart actually missed both of the killing blows on the flak Vierling. So very unlucky, but you can see the idea was there. The Piat, the Piat damage combined with the Stuart follow-up, very easy counter and kill on the flak Vierling if I had managed to hit those shots. On the right-hand side here, I identified that he had packed up his machine gun here, so I'm approaching wide from 2 different angles with my sections. Careful the Stuart there. Go, big flank happening. Just gonna get myself into green cover. He's doing a retreat. There we go. Now, quickly here, I want to call out. So we teched incendiary munitions. This to me is just the obvious choice between these two. I think Burnout could be useful potentially in some 1v1 maps. This actually might be one of them, with the ability to burn out like this cutoff point, or if you're playing on south side, being able to burn out this cutoff point. But for the most part, I just feel like the pyrotechnics is better. Being able to slow infantry and vehicles. And then we are also going for, we went for incendiary munitions, and then we're going for pyrotechnics, obviously. And this combined with the grenades and then also the flamers later on is a great augment to your infantry that's just going to make all of them that much stronger. Because we're leaning primarily into infantry here with the training and the steward as our supporting unit, both of these choices are just working further to help our infantry continue to scale.
5 command points available.
So applying more pressure to the +10. Don't know where the flak Veerling is. I know he's probably repairing it from the damage that we dealt earlier. You can see a pack in production for Reakly here. I actually don't know if he ended up going Tier 4 at this point. Yeah, he did. He's also got armored reserves. So now he's got kind of the choice between either going for an early medium tank, or obviously he could also be saving for a Tiger. Don't know for sure. So I hear him coming with this squad, or with this flak Veerling. I'm going to lead with the Piet first. And I want to call something out. So, Piets, similar to Panzerschrecks, really struggle to get killing blows through smoke. The way that you can mitigate that is you fire the first shot as just a basic shot, like just right click. Then you trigger your critical shot. The critical shot functions similarly to a snare in that it has perfect accuracy even through smoke. So this will allow me to track the flak Veerling even if he pops smoke, as long as I land that first shot. Reakly here, I'm actually getting in the building, so I missed the opportunity to execute this maneuver on the flak Veerling. But you can see again, you know, the idea was there. He gets a good stun grenade on me. I was going to plant a mine, but now that he's pushing in, I'm just going to use the flamer for my sappers on this Pioneer squad. Canadians forcing away the Bersaglieri again. And again, at Vet 2 is when the Canadians really like start hitting their stride, because they get the ability recharge and 20% damage reduction makes them really, really beefy. So I'm able to pretty safely like close the gap on and attack all of his infantry units without fearing the damage too much. Over here, we're kind of just buying time for the flak Veerling while we recoup this left-hand side of the map. Canadian's going to get the neutralize here, attacking spirit, proving its value once again. I'm rotating the steward over to the right-hand side, anticipating that he's going to get aggressive again with the flak Veerling. Use a quick cheeky grenade here from my Royal Engineer to flush out the machine gun. So just skirting around the Panzer Grenadier. Don't want to get snared if I can avoid it. Trying to create some space for my section, so I don't have to deal with the flak Veerling. And I'm being very careful here with the Stewart. Good mine, actually. Actually, I think he might have shot my mine. Oh, and then looks like he hit my mine with his pack that's approaching, but I don't know that at this point. Again, getting some more clean shots in from behind the building. Canadians pushing in. Now I've spotted his pack and his Panzerjäger, so I'm going to get my Steward out of there. Focus my Canadians on the Panzerjäger squad. And then now that he's triggered the suppression, quick way to break suppression. I think most of you probably already knew this, but if you're ever suppressed and near a building, you could very quickly break it by getting into the building and then getting back out. Canadians continuing to vacuum up the left side of the map. I'm thinking, so you can see I'm actually teching my tier 4 here because I'm expecting some heavier armor coming from him very soon. Sections back on the field. So, just for the record, I'm prioritizing Piets on my Canadians against DAK. Against Wehrmacht, I might hold off on my upgrade and eventually go for the 2-inch mortar. And on my sections, I'm obviously going to prioritize Bren's because that is the highest firepower option for the Tommy squads. So I will be going for Bren guns eventually, but I don't have the munitions for it at the moment. Trying to get a cheeky shot in here, but I miss on the flak Veerling before being forced to retreat. Attacking spirit keeping me healthy here. Using a grenade to turn the tide of this engagement against the Bersaglieri. Very nice. Now, I built a Vickers as well to help me try to control the field and leverage the buildings a little bit more, just to prevent the freedom of movement from a lot of his infantry units. Stewart applying pressure to the Bersaglieri. He actually hits my mine, and I go for the killing shot and end up picking it up on the Bersaglieri. That's a big pickup for me because he doesn't have nearly as much infantry now. Trading shots onto the Flak Veerling, but forcing it away because I don't have any additional support to back up the Stewart. Don't want to get caught out by the Pack and Panzerjäger. Now, at this point, my Stewart has served its purpose. It's provided the pressure that I needed in the early game, but this unit is not going to continue to scale with me. Now that I've got my tier 4 up, I want to be refitting this and using that tempo to convert it into an early vehicle, be it a Matilda or a Crusader. I'm a little bit undecided on which one I want to do at this point, but I am sure that I want to convert this unit into something else as soon as possible. There are going to be some circumstances where, for example, if you use like the spotter upgrade on the Stewart and you're using it to spot for artillery, or AT guns or team weapon heavy play, it can be useful to keep the Stewart. But in my case, specifically against what I know Reakly's going to be going for, I know that it's served its purpose. It's done in terms of longevity, and I'm better off converting it into more tier 4 units than holding on to it. Continuing the aggression here on the right-hand side. Just going to get the decapture so I get my attacking spirit passive and back away from this unfavorable engagement. Canadians just waiting for the sappers to approach here, but we get caught out by the machine gun. You can see here, so based on how much time has passed and what I know of Reakly, I've decided not to go for the Churchill Crocodile because I am expecting a Tiger from him. I know he's had more fuel than me for most of the game, and I haven't seen a tank from him besides the a vehicle from him besides the Flak Veerling. So I'm expecting a Tiger at this point. Because of that, I've gone down the tree towards the left-hand side on the demolition engineering, which is going to allow me to upgrade my sappers to get the demolition package. This is going to give them access to the demo charges and extra durability, which is, again, just further augmenting my infantry and making them stronger at this point. And then I'm going for the smoke operation. This ability is fantastic for setting up attacks, especially against prepared positions like AT guns, machine guns, etc. It's going to slam whatever those units are with smoke shells and make it very easy for you to close the gap with your assault troops and flush an enemy out of a position or potentially set up a killing blow on a priority unit. So I'm very comfortable on this side waiting for my first tank to come out. I've actually gone for the Crusader here. Initially, I was going to go for... Yeah, so I was actually building a Matilda, but then I changed my mind at the last minute. And the reason why is I recognize that he has a pack. I recognize that he has a Panzerjäger, a Flak Veerling. I know that he's saving for a Tiger. If I go Matilda, as soon as the Tiger hits the field, he's going to beeline it for my Matilda and probably kill it because the Tiger is faster. So what I need to do is start building up critical mass of Crusaders. I really have two options. I can either go for Grants, which are decent. They have relatively high penetration, good frontal armor, good DPS, but I'm a little afraid that tempo is not going to be on my side, and I'm not going to be able to field enough of them to deal with the threat of the Tiger head on. So what I'm doing instead is I'm going to go for critical mass of Crusaders. And when I see the Tiger hit the field, I'm going to plan to upgrade the guns on the Crusaders so that they have higher probability of killing, or of penetrating, I should say. Because really the only purpose that I need the Crusaders to fulfill is killing his vehicles. Because my infantry is already dramatically stronger than his at this point in the game. And so I just need to make sure that I can clear out the vehicle threats and make space for my infantry to close the gap. And as far as team weapons go, you know, I can always save a little bit more munitions for smoke operation to set up for the big attacks that I need to get in close and get really aggressive on his infantry. So we're going for a mine dismantle here, pushing in with the sappers, pushing in with the Canadians from both sides. I also went for a mortar here. I don't usually go for the UK mortar, but I did specifically on this one because I know he's got 2 team weapons. I don't want to be burning all my munitions on smoke operation. And you can see I'm trying to make use of the smoke shells to allow me to create space and close the gap. I actually think the smoke barrage on the UK mortar is probably better to use more frequently than the regular barrage, because for some reason the scatter on the regular UKF mortar barrage is very wide, which means it's not hitting his target as often as like the M1 mortar from the US, for example. So I find myself using the smoke a lot more often on the 3-inch here. Trying to deny the decapture, but we miss out just a little bit here. Sections, again, pressuring away the right-hand side of the map. And this is the advantage of playing the map, you know, like always keeping perspective on the full breadth of the map. A lot of players have a tendency to tunnel vision on where the fighting is the hottest and where the fighting is the most intense, and using all their units there. By playing wide, I'm allowing myself to, again, retain control of some important areas of the map, win a separate engagement, cut my losses on this side, and not fall prey to the pressure of forcing a bad engagement because I want to, you know, overcome my opponent in a specific area. We get a quick shot in on the Panzerjägers. He's actually got his pack in position to defend. Thankfully, we've got both sappers at the base that are going to be repairing, and you can see I'm already immediately queuing up my second Crusader here. Assault Grenadiers here built by Reakly. Just having my sections support each other from long range, standing still. Forcing him away, using the Piet to deter the Flak Virling here. It's a decent stun grenade off. And after the second Crusader comes out, I'm going to look for an opportunity to try to close on and kill this Flak Virling. So we're going to bring our Crusaders into position, keep them in a relatively safe or conservative position until we find an opportunity to pounce. Meanwhile, we're playing wide with the other 3 units that we had left in base and retaking the other areas of the map. Section getting a little unhealthy. We're going to retreat that, finish the capture on this side. He actually went for the Breda upgrade on the PG, which is kind of funny because it's not as good. Bringing my mortar over to support this against this machine gun here. Bringing the Crusaders in as I notice the Flak Virling peek its head, but I'm going to retreat because I know his pack and his PJ are probably back there. Turning on this PG on the left-hand side. I'm actually okay with taking the damage here because I know he's got nothing else over here. I'm moving my Canadians. This is an important call out. So I'm moving my Canadians into the line of retreat of the machine gun. Because best case scenario, he's going to take some damage from the mortar. I think I'm using the... Yeah, I used the regular barrage here instead of the smoke. Best case scenario, he's going to take some damage, overstay a little bit by trying to kill the sapper. And I'm going to be able to catch him on the retreat path with the Canadian shock troops and potentially hit him with a light gammon bomb to try to decrew the machine gun and steal it. This is an example of like using one unit to bait for another future engagement. And something you should kind of be thinking about, like when your units are taking damage, think about the vision of your opponent. Think about what they can see. And in this case, you know, if Reakly was a little bit less aware and was really fixated on this and maybe didn't have the Panzerjäger here, there's a good chance that he would stick around long enough to think, oh, I can totally kill this flame sapper. But then, you know, by the time the mortar finishes the barrage, the Canadian section is coming in from the south side. He's going to realize it'd be too late, right? Discovering more mines here with the sappers, which is really, really going to be key because it's going to allow me freedom to move my tanks over on this side. Hit. Oh, just shy of hitting the flak Veerling. I'm rotating my Crusaders over in response. Just playing from cover here, which is kind of funny with Assault Grenadiers. They're not so good at that. The effective engagement range for Assault Grenadiers is like, we're holding hands, we're hugging, like these guys. Not super great unit to use in cover. So again, playing very passively with my Crusaders until I find an opportunity to pounce. I want to call out here, this is a pivotal decision. Like, this is an important decision point specifically. Because I know where his Panzerjäger is. I know where his Panzer Grenadier is, which is the only unit that has a snare in his roster. Outside of the Flak Veerling Vet 1, right? I have my Sapper at the front of the line discovering a really deep mine, which tells me that he doesn't likely have anything else in this area because the Sappers discovered this. So, because I know his two units that are protected have some light form of handheld anti-tank to protect the Flak Veerling are here, the only thing I have to contend with is the pack. I don't know where the pack is right now, but it doesn't matter. Because if I can kill the Flak Veerling, there's a very low probability that the pack will be able to land, 4 shots consecutively on the Crusader without me being able to outmaneuver and escape, right? So I've noticed the opportunity here, and now I'm electing, you can see I've right-clicked right away, I'm electing to pursue this Flak Veerling. And again, we're just buying time with the Canadians, they're in yellow cover, Crusaders are in pursuit. Get 2 good shots in, continuing to pursue. Second shots come in, and then I actually spotted his Tiger coming out from this area right here, and it looks like he got a little bit stuck on the entrance. And so now I'm just gonna make my way out. I'm gonna get away from the Panzer Grenadier, away from the Panzerjäger, and coming out this other side. Now, this is a little bit risky because I don't know for sure if he's been over here planting mines, so I'm taking a calculated risk here. But I did see his Panzer Pioneer down here in the south, so I'm expecting that maybe he probably didn't plant any mines. Crusaders dealing some decent machine gun damage to these Bersaglieri. Section actually hits Vet 3 without any weapon upgrades, which you rarely see, I think. Gonna pull the Canadians back to base to get healthy. Now that I've seen his Tiger, I know I need to commit to my plan of using a critical mass of Crusaders with upgraded guns to contend with this. Because head-on, you know, small, short engagements where we're trading, I know I'm going to lose over time, and I can't let him be wiping my infantry with his Tiger before I pick an engagement where I'm willing to commit. The Canadians here closing in. Again, they're like the bullies here. He's getting really aggressive with the Tiger, spots out the mortar, which I do a quick retreat on. Eat a little bit of grenade damage there. Tiger gets a shot in. That could have been very devastating. But we are able to retreat here. Staying in green cover near this tree. Just going to retreat that. You can see I'm getting my Crusaders out of position here. I've already upgraded them to Crusader 3s. I'm going to do that with this last one as well. And then I'm going to hold these guys in reserve and wait for that opportunity for the Tiger to overextend and try to kill it. You can see, like, Reakly he's a very reactive player. Like, he gets kind of pissed off. I think he was kind of pissed off because of the Flak Veerling, and so he was looking to retaliate and get some returns here. But I can call out, like, again, his Tiger is overextended. It's not properly supported. I don't know where the pack is. Okay, the pack's a little bit out of position. Again, I don't know where the pack is, but once again, I do know where his Panzer Grenadier and his Panzerjäger is. So I'm electing to go down this road on the right-hand side of the road here, bypassing these two squads and avoiding them. And I'm going to go straight for the rear of the Tiger, and I'm going all in. Like, there's no hesitation on my part. If I hit a mine, unlucky, you know, but I recognize that I have to commit to, and if I trade out 2 Crusaders, even all 3, if I lose all 3 Crusaders killing this Tiger, then, you know, I'll be fine. Because my infantry, like I mentioned, dramatically outscaling his at this point in the game. I can continue to churn out Crusaders, and if he's going to do something similar, like start churning out P3s, you know, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But again, my infantry continuing to scale, and he knows that he's falling behind. That's why he's really feeling pressured to find an opportunity to wipe some squads and get the advantage and the initiative back. Anyway, so we're committing, right? We're on the road. We're using the speed of the road. Actually, the micro kind of not helping me here a little bit on the Tiger side. And I'm just trying to get behind him. Committing here. Again, avoided his pack. Don't know where his pack is. Managed to close on the Tiger that was overcommitted. Engaged him on the road. Panzer Grenadier was forced to retreat. He's got no munitions to follow up on the and land a snare on the Crusaders, and we get out safely. Now, frankly, I feel like, and we're kind of getting to the end game state here, I feel like this is probably the strongest composition for the Canadian Shock Group in a 1v1 context on a small-ish map like Angoville. The infantry training is going to help your Canadians get to the scaling that they need. You can invest in either the Piats or the 2-inch mortar. If you're playing against Wehrmacht, I would probably go more often for the 2-inch mortar. But the Piat is good too. If you're playing against like tier 2.5 Wehrmacht, they're going whirlwinds. As a counter to kind of like the Jaeger squads, the Canadians are a great answer to help you deal with them. Excuse me, and as your infantry are scaling with their training, the combination of a mass of Crusaders with the smoke operation as like a tipping or a setup tool to help you close the gap. Because if we go back to where the Tiger was here, and hypothetically, if my opponent has like, maybe they have double packs, right? If I have the munitions to support a smoke operation and I drop it on the attack point, I'm going to close with my infantry, and the Crusaders are perfect for this because the smoke shells are going to land on top of the AT guns and on top of the Tiger. And he's going to have a really difficult time trying to attack ground and micro with his AT guns and his Tiger through the smoke to try to hit my Crusaders. While it's very good, it's going to be very easy for me to close the gap and attack ground through the smoke to hit a very large, very slow moving Tiger. Right? So that's the benefit of going smoke operation. Obviously, if you're playing more like team weapon focus and you don't have as much infantry or don't have your infantry training, the Crocodile might be a better choice. But for the composition that we went for here, I'm feeling really, really strongly about going for the Mass Crusaders instead. So we've killed his Tiger. I'm looking for an opportunity to close out. I don't know how close he's going to be to having another Tiger. He does have quite a few VPs on the board, so I want to find ways to apply as much pressure as possible with the units that I have. Thankfully, now that his Tiger's dead, my infantry can pretty confidently win most engagements against his. And the Crusaders, honestly, they're not going to be super useful against infantry because they have the Crusader 3 upgrade. So I'm going to be looking for opportunities to harass his base and any other vehicles that he pulls. I want to pick them off quickly so that I can continue the basically free onslaught of my infantry against his. So we've got our demolition sappers here along with another Canadian shock squad. Probably incorrectly focusing on the Panzer Pioneer here. I probably should have focused on the Panzer Grenadier. They're the higher threat. Now, I'm using the combination of the flamethrower plus a grenade from the Canadian Shocks to flush this Panzer Grenadier away. But as the Breda Bersaglieri shows up, I'm recognizing I'm not going to be able to win that engagement, so I'm going to let him force me away. We'll get back on the field with the sappers shortly, and like I said, I'm going to be probing for an opportunity to harass his base and close this game out as quickly as possible because I don't want to give him another opportunity to breathe here. What I see a lot of players do, and this is like a big mistake that I see pretty frequently, is they give their opponent space to breathe after a decisive win. You cannot let off the gas. Continue the pressure, continue the attack. Do not give your opponent the space to breathe. You know, it's funny. I was on stream yesterday complaining about how I was playing against Reakly on Langres, and I killed like a couple of his tanks, and I was really happy. Like it was, you know, it was a favorable engagement for me. I won it, but then he called in a third one and like totally fucked up my my remaining forces with the last tank. And that is the importance of tempo in this game. You need to be consistently applying it and not giving your opponent space to get their bearings, because giving them space is giving them an opportunity to claw their way back into the game, and we don't want to be doing that. So I'm going in with the Crusaders where I know his infantry is weakest. I'm going straight for his base. I'm actually going to go and attack his tier 4 here. Going for the tier 4 first because I'm expecting, you know, if he's going to go for anything but that's not a call-in, he's probably going to build like a P3 or an 88 first. So I'm actually just going to go for that. I'm going to focus that down. Meanwhile, pushing my infantry here in on the left-hand side. We've identified his packs here with the sappers. I actually had my sweeper out before. I'm, again, continuing to keep space from his packs, and I'm opening up his base. I'm clearing these HMG nests, which is actually going to give me the freedom to potentially push into his base with my infantry and completely finish them off. Mortar here applying pressure to the machine gun, which is repositioning. Packs again being forced away. I'm going to again continue the pressure here, hitting the HMG nest. I want to open it up so that my Canadians can get into his base and start cleaning up his units. Here we go. Base is open. Machine guns postured. So he's got no tier 4. He doesn't really have a lot left to stand on at this point. And so I'm thinking, you know, I'm either going to see another call-in from him very soon, or he's going to surrender. Those are his, those are the two most likely outcomes. There we go. Throwing another light gammon bomb. Big damage on the assault grenadier, and there's the surrender. So there you have it. You know, it was a very intense early game, as it always is against Reakly. Applied a lot of map pressure early on. The fuel income was heavily favoring him. I think a couple important things to call out from Reakly. I think going for the medical truck, despite all the early damage he took, was actually a mistake, because he missed out on some tempo and the potential to be aggressive with his flak veerling before my Humber came out. I also think going straight for the Tiger was probably not the right choice. He gave me too much space to accumulate critical mass of Crusaders. If he had gone for a P4 when he could afford it, it probably would have been like P4 versus Crusader and Assault Grenadier, and it would have been a much more competitive game. It would have been much more competitive, I think. Yeah, the Canadians would have threatened the P4, but he also probably would have been able to bleed me a little bit more and eventually build his way into his Tiger later on. So anyways, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Please feel free to ask questions in the comments down below. And you could also, you know, you could reach out to me privately if you want me to do a replay review or spend some time one-on-one. I'm happy to do that. But again, really appreciate all of the new viewers. Very happy to see some new faces. And don't forget to check me out on I stream pretty much daily on Twitch and YouTube, so you can catch me there as well. Anyway, I'll catch you guys on the next one.